So, I have a confession. I haven't really been a fan of Purrely since I tried it on release because I knew how easy it is to play against. I only put it on the poll because it's still relatively new and I didn't think that it would get majority of the votes. But you know, the community has spoken and I am here to deliver. Before we talk about the deck, here's the bracket that we had yesterday. If I knew the three goobers were going to play each other, so that's Zeke, Hex, and myself, I would have really preferred to play a better deck, and maybe even veto the vote. If you couldn't tell, I was 0-2 getting knocked out by Zeke in round 2. This is why I think Purrely is objectively bad. By the way, everyone knew that Purrely was going to be bad in this tournament, so I was the only one to bring it. So the whole game plan is to summon our boss monster Noir and build our advantage. If Noir has 5 or more XZ's materials, it is unaffected by our opponent's activated effects. It can also detach 2 materials to spin back 1 card from our opponent's field or grave. We will go over both of the replays and I can show you how we already lost the duel even before I made my first move. Here are the cards that just destroy our deck. People were actively running several copies of Kaijus, Kurikaras, and even Herald of the Abyss. If you didn't know, Herald of the Abyss makes the user declare 1 monster type and attribute. Then, the opponent will have to send a monster from their field if it matches the declared type and attribute to the grave. This affects Noir because it is just like evenly, and we are the ones sending our own monster to the grave. When we go over the replays, you can see that both of my opponents already had 1 or 2 of these in their opening hand. So let's go over the duels. In round 1, I was the feature match and I went first against Speedroids. But take a look at their opening hand. 3 of the 5 cards just destroys my deck. Although I do play around the Nibiru after I realized it was in their hand, given what I had access to, I felt like I played this as well as I could have. Currently, we are just trying to build as much advantage as possible. The lead now targets Delicious from the grave to overlay into Plump. Now we just need to put as many materials on Plump to overlay it into Noir. So after we use one of our quick play spells, Plump can then attach it to itself. This is where I realized they had Nibiru, so now I was in panic mode. So again, we just try to put as many materials onto Plump. And then here, I also banish my Fenrir, because I knew that if they use Nibiru, it can protect it because Fenrir will come back to our field on the end phase. So now I just overlaid the rest of the monsters into Nightingale to attempt to protect us from Nibiru, but then here it is. It got rid of one of my monsters. But again, it doesn't matter, because the first thing they'll do is tribute away my Noir. And the game's already over. All of that time I spent making that board, playing around Nibiru, didn't matter anyways. I haven't read a single Speedroid card since early Master Duel. It's been so long since I've played against these cards that I didn't know what they were doing. So I spent a lot of time reading, and I was down to like 30 seconds by the end of the duel. And do you know what the worst part of losing to Speedroid is? It's the fact that I lost to a bike. A bike is what destroyed the supposedly tier 1 deck in Master Duel. Like on ladder, sure, this deck is probably really good still, with all the different decks running around. But this deck is literally unplayable in tournaments. So now here I just try to build back my board. But it doesn't really matter because the bike can tribute itself and then summon 2 monsters that can negate 2 other monsters. And with my hand, I only have access to, you guessed it, 2 monsters. So here I link Purrely into Anima. Now we try to absorb their monster, but it gets destroyed. And now we just overlay into beauty to negate one of their monsters, and then they just negate it back. And then, yep, it's pretty much over. I set the trap card in case our monster survives, but as you know, another kaiju. And then they just steal it away. Like, this makes Speedroids look really, really good. So what do you think? Do you think I could have played that better? So yeah, the deck in a tournament setting is easily countered and is pretty bad. In ladder, where most of the decks are varied, I am sure this still does pretty well. I hope y'all never make me play this deck again in a tournament setting. Anyways, are you all excited about the new pack coming out in like 14 hours? I am so excited, and you know I will be awake right when the maintenance is completed. So please come back then, and then we can check out the new Kashtira cards. I will have my round 2 replay after this, so you can check it out if you're interested. Thanks for watching, until next time.